I figured we'd start today's video off by talking about Bitcoin. I've got some charts from Twitter that I wanted to share. This is from Flash, friend of the channel. The Bitcoin to gold ratio looks very similar to MSTR's price action. Maybe we're lagging behind it a bit, but you can see that Bitcoin to gold ratio broke out of that downtrend. And MSTR, depending on how you draw the downtrend, is struggling to really confirm the breakout. The way I had it drawn, I thought it already broke out basically on Wednesday and then again today with a gap up, but it did end up getting slammed back down. Anyways, we'll see what happens with the close today. Here's TechDev talking about the 2012 setup before the 2013 Bitcoin run, which to me, I just call them log chart breakouts because the Bitcoin log chart telegraphs when these runs are going to happen pretty strongly. That's why I am so excited about this trade. That's why, while other things are, gaining so much on the stock market, I'm really kind of focused, like laser focused on the Bitcoin and Bitcoin proxy trade, with MSTR being the vehicle that I've, been talking the most about and have the largest exposure to outside of Bitcoin personally. But that's what we're going to focus on in this video because I know it gets a lot of views as well. So I'm guessing you guys are in the same boat, even though MSTR appears to be lagging behind. So again, TechDev here showing that we have a very similar setup here with the liquidity adjusted business cycle currently to what preceded the last 4 massive log chart breakouts for Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that we know what's going to happen, but definitely means that it could hopefully occur. Here's Kush. He does great work on YouTube and Twitter, just kind of showing his Elliott wave analysis for what he thinks is next for Bitcoin. He basically sees it into the end of the year, going on a straight line to about 170K, then maybe a pullback, and then north of 200K with potential, if this is a 5-wave move, to go up to like 270K. Jim16 on Twitter, and I'll link to these tweets underneath the video so you guys can check them out, but he just released a new indicator. He does a lot of like open source, like public work, like TradingView indicators, custom stuff. Basically, this is a long tweet, but he put out like a more robust copper to gold ratio indicator. And basically what it shows is kind of how TechDev was looking at the liquidity adjusted business cycle and how similar it looked to the, past like 4 log chart breakouts for Bitcoin. This also is looking extremely similar, the copper to gold ratio. And he talks about, if you want to learn in the sidebar, kind of when the copper to gold ratio swings, what it could mean for the outlook on like the economy and stuff like that. So, and typically how Bitcoin performs as a result. And essentially the real signal here is that we are looking like we are very close to a potential Bitcoin breakout and bull run, if this is to serve as any signal, okay? One more that I picked out. This is Super Bitcoin Bro on Twitter, showing Bitcoin just in US dollars and showing a very similar setup from early 2024 into 2025, and the setup looking very similar. By the way, guys, if you're new here, like patterns do replay all the time across many assets and equities, but they don't have to like replay exact, right? Because the game that we're all playing is money, and money is cutthroat. They don't owe us anything. I always like to say that, like, I don't know the future. I'm trying to guess here. And also it's like when I talk about Bitcoin breaking out and MSTR being bullish, I don't know what percentages of like people that watch these videos that don't understand that like that's the like we're looking through that lens, but our thesis can be invalidated. It's not like a binary like flip a coin heads tails left right, right wrong thing. Like, I mean, ultimately, yeah, we're gonna be right or wrong, but it's not that I'm staking everything on being right. It's that if this should play out, the upside of MSTR to run and other Bitcoin proxies to run, if Bitcoin is going to do the log chart breakout, which we can talk about while I go on my rant, that's what we're really talking about. And if we're wrong, we'll know, and then we can adjust our exposures. It's not like a binary thing, but there's, always some percentage of people that see the world that way, and I feel kind of bad. But anyways, this is the, my green Bitcoin linear chart. It shows 8 years of price action for Bitcoin, as you can see here, going back to the 2017 top right here through 2025. Now in July, we broke above this on this crazy weekly candle right here. We broke above that 8-year channel, and then we kind of ran into this secondary overhead resistance where you essentially connect the 2017 top to the second. It was really the first top in 2021, but it was the like second push up at about 65,400. You extend that out, and it came into play twice up here in late July and August and pushed the price back down underneath into the green channel. We are basically, probably by the time you watch this video, or potentially tomorrow at the latest, I would guess, gonna retest this green channel. It was resistance, flipped support for a period of time, And then now resistance again. It's going to be resistance at about 117,100. Now, this is a linear chart. It's not really why I'm excited about Bitcoin, although it is, going to be like when we flip this again, if we do, it's going to be indicative of a lot of strength in Bitcoin. Like, this is where I get kind of like, people that want to be bearish on Bitcoin, that's fine. We're under the channel. So if you want to be bearish, the perfect time to place your bets on shorts, okay, let's make this video appeal to both sides, is literally when it rubs up against that 117,100 level. You can get an even more exact reading by switching this to daily. On the daily candles today, it looks like it's going to be at about $117,260. You would go short there theoretically, because if you're wrong, you will know right away. Like, literally set a stop loss at 117,300. Because if this doesn't hold this 8-year resistance, you don't want to be short, obviously. Hopefully this is making some sense, guys. Like, I love those opportunities as like perfect entry opportunities. In this case, you would look at it as a short. As soon as it gets above, you could flip long. Does that make sense? Because at that point, we've broke the 8-year resistance. And at this point, too, we're breaking it for the second time in just a few months. Like, that illustrates some pretty insane strength. Now, I've talked enough about the linear chart. I want to talk about the log chart, okay? If I zoom out really quickly, I feel like I do this every video, and I don't know how many new subscribers or new people I reach with these videos. So if you've been watching, you already know. The Bitcoin log chart is the key. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why we have our money exposed to this trade and not other trades, right? You could just buy the S&P, dollar cost average in, and you're going to crush pretty much everybody you know in investing, realistically, unless you know a bunch of Bitcoin holders and whatnot. But I just was saying that to illustrate a point. Like, also, if you dollar cost average in Bitcoin, you don't need to watch this video. I'm assuming if you're watching, it's because you want to do something a little bit more active with how you're positioning yourself or trading, etc. So the Bitcoin log chart breakouts, like literally these white lines illustrate it. They represent, when you break through for the first time into a new log chart level, the most rapid ascension of Bitcoin when priced in US dollars, basically. So right there in 2013, you had a 1,600% gain in, what was it, like 13 weeks? Then you had another one right here. It was like 4 weeks, 300%. It's a 4X. You had another one here. Now we're in 2017. We broke through. If you caught it on, so 2017, let's just look real quick though, because this one needs to be studied. Because we're essentially doing something similar to this. Should the Bitcoin log chart breakout manifest again, which I think it might by like next week. The tune of this could change dramatically by next week, for real. Right here in 2017, we broke above. It slammed price back below, and then it was off to the races. But you had to hold, if you bought this breakout, let's just say you bought right when it broke out, basically 5 weeks later, you were down 31%. So you had to hold through that. Or if you had the discipline, you could buy right here. Although I don't know why you wouldn't have been buying up here. But either way, I mean, it is what it is. Or like I said, you buy right when you flip that overhead resistance to support. Click here to watch my full 1 hour long Bitcoin and MicroStrategy thesis video. And then theoretically, you could sell right when it got slammed back under. And if you're looking for entries, I mean, I don't know if I would have guessed to buy at the 21 EMA or not. But if you did do that, you bought at the 21 EMA, you essentially got 925% returns in 21 weeks. Or if you bought on the second breakout confirmation, you got 620% in 19 weeks, which I don't think anybody would be unhappy with, right? So where I think we're at is just on a larger scale, like more prolonged. It didn't just happen on one massive green bar. I think that we're going to get back above the 2025 log chart resistance level and see a Bitcoin run very similar to this right here. Except I don't think it's going to be on that scale where it, goes up 6, 7, 8x or whatever. It all depends on where you bought. But I think we see something like this, guys. So let's head on over to the 2020 breakout. Okay, so we're just going through it, catching everybody up right here. And worth noting on the 2020 breakout, if we zoom in, you broke through on this candle. The next candle went all the way back down, retraced almost the entire move, but ultimately closed above. The next candle didn't do too much. It was kind of a slow, like, yeah, let's go, all systems go. The next one retraced, backtest. And after the backtest candle, and if you bought the backtest, you're a genius because you're rewarded with 270% gains. So almost a 4x in 18 weeks, okay? So you guys noticing a trend here of how powerful these log chart breakouts are. So now where we are today is, well, it looks like 2017, like we just talked about. We got above it, slammed price back down, tried to get back above, fake out, back down, 21 EMA, the same point that the 2017 retraced to. And now it appears that we're recovering. And I mean, it's within striking distance, guys. Like that linear chart with the 8-year channel it's fun to talk about, but the real money's made right here on the log chart with these breakouts. And we already tested this breakout level. If anybody's wondering if I like have these lines, you know, accurately drawn or anything like that. Number one, it's the same line, the same angle every single time. We established it with that second, you know how we double topped in 2021? It was the first top, but it was that second like higher wick at, again, about 65,200. I still hear people referencing back in 2021 when people were like, oh, it's the super cycle, it's this, it's that. Like, I've said this before, guys, but the double top thing had nowhere to go. If it broke through, it was going to run. It had the ability to run from, you know, 70K up to 77,000 or 80,000. You know, we just talked about how Bitcoin is going, you know, 8x, 10x, 16x. And let's just say that Bitcoin just goes double on this next breakout. I mean, that would still take us north of 200K for what it's worth, right? If it was going to go, you know, quote, super cycle, whatever that means, etc., back here, it had nowhere to go. It was going to go to like 80K. And I have these inverted parabolas. They're not meant to be an exact science, but like it really did not have much, very far to go. That's all I'm trying to illustrate here. And these little dots are illustrating when I get the 21 weekly EMA crossing up through the 200-day moving average. It's extremely bullish. It typically precedes these Bitcoin log chart breakouts. So this screenshot from my spreadsheet shows how often this happens in the last 10 years. It's only happened 8 times, guys. It's significant. These columns show the Bitcoin gains that followed. This column is the end of run total Bitcoin gains. And the last one is how long did it take? How many weeks did it take? Now, the only one that failed was the one that I just explained. It was this one right here on the double top because there was nowhere to go. It needed to consolidate and ultimately spent like 5 years, just a few weeks shy of 5 years consolidating on this level. Guess what, guys? I think that we're about to break through to the next log chart level. And do the math in your head. I mean, we just talked about 5 years. So this move has been in the making for 5 years. And you might be happy with the gains that essentially were made while we chopped around and, you know, we hit the 15K Bitcoin lows down here. And this might have all felt like a significant, you know, move in Bitcoin, but it was not a log chart breakout. The breakout took place right here in 2020, okay? And you saw how rapidly it ascended. The rapid price expansion for Bitcoin is predictable using this chart. That's really what I'm trying to say. Now, I've also gone through in previous videos, like using the 200-day moving average rate of change. And what was really interesting was that data table that I just showed you guys here. A lot of these breakouts that are captured using, you know, the moving averages that I chose to use were also captured by that 200-day moving average rate of change. Speaking of the 200-day rate of change, look at Bitcoins. Now, we have been in this downtrend since 2024 March, okay? And we're in this big consolidation and it looks like we have broken out. I mean, if you zoom in right there, it looks like we're breaking out. Now, it also looked like we broke out right there and then it got jammed back in, but this looks to be a legit breakout. You could also argue that we need to draw a second trend line like that, and it might imply that we have to clear this hurdle right here when we get up there. And if you ask me, it probably coincides with getting to that green linear chart channel. Remember how I said the 8-year channel on Bitcoin is at about 117,200 or 300? Well, my guess is that when we get up there, we reject, and then maybe we reject off this initially instead of just breaking clear through it. But either way, I do believe that we get out above this, guys. And I spent weeks studying this, studying like non-Bitcoin, non-MSTR, studying just normal stocks, like a lot of the Mag 7 stocks, trying to see if there's signal. Because the beautiful thing about technical analysis, you can backtest all of it. It doesn't guarantee the future, but like if it worked all this time in the past, it's probably going to work again. And I love this for an extra signal. I mean, again, I spent plenty of time doing it. You don't have to take me at my word. You can check it out yourself if you're in TradingView. Just type in rate of change in the indicators. I wanted to also show you guys this. So this is on the daily. So this is a 200-day moving average. If I switch this to weekly, guys, prepare to have your minds blown. I don't know if I've shown this before, but this is serious, okay? Like the 200-week moving average rate of change is about to detonate, guys. Detonate. Look at this. Do you see that trend line I just drew? This goes back to December of 2015. Okay, December of 2015. Trying to do a good job drawing it. Essentially, if I zoom in, like we are that close. That close. Like, do I need to zoom in more? We're that close to a 10-year on the weekly time frame explosion to the upside, theoretically. I mean, I can't guarantee anything. By the way, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I do own Bitcoin and MSTR and I guess other, Bitcoin proxy plays. But we are this close to the underlying, the thing that will drive the price action of all the other Bitcoin proxies, MSTR, Bitcoin miners, IBIT, whatever it is. We're this close to a 10-year in the making breakout. Like, don't take me at my word too. If you don't understand this 200-day rate of change thing, or this is 200-week rate of change, go test it for yourself, guys. But we're that close. So something significant is brewing. So that's Bitcoin. Should we go on over and talk about MicroStrategy now? I have a bunch of different MSTR charts. I really don't even know anymore like what charts to start with. I guess I could just zoom out and say, well, this channel that you see here, this green channel, it's a linear chart on MSTR. It's containing 5 years of price action, basically dating back to when MSTR became the first Bitcoin treasury company and the first like real proxy play for traditional finance to get exposure to Bitcoin. And this is basically how I have it drawn out. Like, I think that we're kind of in an equilateral triangle consolidation pattern, potentially. You can see how this is daily chart. And you can kind of see that this would theoretically take us up until Monday, September 22nd, which in terms of trading days is like, 5 trading days away, basically all of next week, before it should break to the up or down. Today's daily overhead resistance was at about 337.7. The support on the bottom end was at about 323.8. That's basically how I'm seeing this. Now, if I go back and I draw the fib retracement from this kind of local top here at, Friday, August 22nd, the Fed day, where it ripped up to 360 and then got rejected. Well, it didn't get rejected, actually. I mean, we had a strong close up there, but the next candle was so ugly. Gap down, push price down to 340, and then we've been in that downtrend continuation since then. But this is how I'm looking at it. I do think today was a big step in the right direction. Like, even though it's maybe not that exciting that price closed at 331, what I'm noticing is a trend of a lot of higher lows. Okay, that was 4 in a row. Then we took it out down here, but now again, higher low, higher low. Okay, and we instead of closing like underneath the 0.236 fib, we closed in the 382 fib range. Okay, next trading day ideally would be amazing. Could we close above 333.6, which also just so happens to coincide. You guys probably know where I'm going with this. Just so happens to coincide with the .com bubble top right there. And I don't think there's any coincidence that price action from 25 years ago is in play today. I think these algorithms know exactly what they're doing, and we're just consolidating around and technically below it right now before we resume the uptrend. And I am still leaning bullish, guys, because we're still above the primary channel support that has contained this move that started since basically, I think, late 2023, technically. We're still above that channel support. So why would we be bearish above that channel? Even under a 200-day moving average. Like, I get the bear case. There is still something to be said about being under a declining 200-day. But if MSTR gets its you-know-what together, then we should be good to go. But, yeah, like it starts with, again, significant levels. 333 is a big one. We need to get up there, make contact with the 21 EMA when it converges with the 618. That's around 343.33. I think after that, we reject back down. Maybe it finds support here at the 0.5 fib around 338.5, or maybe retest the top of this. If it ends up being, a equilateral triangle consolidation, okay, maybe it retests the top of it, and then it needs to get back up there to the 200-day moving average. I'm guessing it's going to be around 354, 353. It all depends on time because it is a moving average. It moves. After that, guys, remember this one level, okay? I know I'm talking a lot. I don't know if this is too much, too little, but like the one that matters, and this is where I'm like, I mean, how confident can I really be? But again, it's just me trying to do educated guesses based on like studying technical analysis, studying MSTR a lot. I think it gets up to the 200-day moving average, so it's extended out right there. I'll switch to the brush. However happens beforehand, but it gets up there, reject, right? Predictably, probably rejects. It's going to come down to 341.5. Now, it's not really illustrated well on this chart. If you guys want, I can just draw it really quickly as to why that's a significant level. Some of you guys, if you really are a true fan of the channel, you may know why that's a relevant level. But if you do the fib retracement and you normalize the baseline, okay, and I didn't just pick it at random, you normalize it around like $13 or $14, which essentially was the bottom of the bear market that occurred after 2020 to 2021. So I didn't just pick that at random. But if you do this fib retracement, and then you do it here, and then you do it here, those are the last two big moves, the big parabola moves on MSTR. What you realize is that they all launched from the 618 fib, okay? They all launched from the 618 fib. Where do you think the 618 fib is? It is 341.5. So if you have cash on the sideline and you're thinking, I want the perfect entry to MSTR, theoretically, I have no problem with buying down here because, again, the primary channel support, which is a moving target. And I mean, I could show it to you, I guess, in a little bit, but like it's right around, I think, 323 today, a little bit under. Like, as long as we stay above that, bullish bias in my mind. If we get below it, you bought in at what, 330, and then you sell a couple points lower because the bias flipped to bearish. Like, to me, that makes perfect sense. Also, it's not financial advice. Like I said, you can do whatever you want, but like, if you were to theoretically buy on this backtest of 341.5, to me would be, I mean, it's not like a perfectly bullish bias, perfect entry, but it's like a pretty darn, in my mind, smart entry right there. 341.5, because that's a 618 fib. And again, I'm not just making this stuff up because we're on the subject. I will draw the fib retrace from this previous move, the late 2024. And what do you guys think happened right before it got going? Can anybody guess? Whoops. Yes, if you said that basically that plan that I just said out loud would happen, would manifest, that we broke above the 618, back tested it right there, basically the perfect entry, and then proceeded, MSTR here, proceeded to run, let's measure it. If you just bought the back test of the 618 fib, this is daily bars, it proceeded to run 321% in 46 days. So your pretty much best entry, I mean, you could argue, like, I do definitely have other significant like resistances that you could just wait till they break as well and get a really good entry. But I mean, the 618 fib, unless you think this time's going to be different, I just showed you that was the late 2024 move. And if I measure from right here to right here, this was the early 2024 move. And what do you know right there? 618 fib is where the move basically took off from. So I assume that it will probably be something similar this time around. This is another kind of thing I was looking at recently with MSTR here. What I did, kind of using the same logic as I just showed you, is I did a fib retracement from the 2020 to 2021 top. That was on the back of MSTR literally doing a 10x. I did a fib retracement from top to bottom of the bear market that followed. And if you just kind of zoom out and look at where we are now with MSTR, we're exactly on the 2618 fib, you know, or we're not exactly on it, but that was essentially where we spent the last like 2 weeks consolidating around. And on these, that was 4 years ago. You know, this is a high time frame. If you ask me, high relevance, like look at the relevance of these fib levels. Like, I mean, again, you're going to get a lot of them down here where there's a lot of levels, but up here, there's a lot of air, you know, but what do you see? You see that acting as resistance, the 1.618 at 204. Then you see right here, again, consolidating around it, broke above it. I don't know if you want me to zoom in, but like we literally broke above that 1618 at 204, got a back test. Okay, you saw that back test right there. And that was a clean entry, again, before MSTR just ran, like, what did I just say? We just measured it a second ago. Before it basically ran, you know, from there, it was 168% in 22 days. So like there are different indicators of different levels where in the context of a, like, you get what I'm saying? Does this make sense that like our bias is bullish above certain levels, but like right now we're at an indecision point, like literally where MSTR is right now. You could make a bear case because we're under a declining 200-day moving average. You could make a bull case because we're above the primary support. And this pattern that's been repeating, I mean, honestly, it looks very similar to what preceded the bear market, but it also looks similar to what preceded a bull market as well. And I've got different charts that kind of show that, you know, this could be looked at both ways still. I think we're going to know by next week. But anyways, where we are right now, I mean, again, it's just consolidating around the 2618 fib right there, the red line. And then look at what served as overhead resistance right here. That was the 3618 fib. And I mean, look how it came into play all these times, guys. Like these algorithms, they know what they're doing. It may not be like perfect, exact pixel perfect, but this is 4 years in the making from price action that took place from 2020 to 2021 where MSTR 10x. And then, you know, we talk about Sailor and the ATM and narratives. And like, if you remember how I opened up one of my videos earlier this week, it's that like, let's have two worlds, one where everybody says narratives and one where all we do is look at the price action. And like, I'm not saying that, you know, narratives don't matter. And when I say narratives, I mean, it's not even narrative. It's like reality that he dilutes shares, but then he buys Bitcoin with it. And, you know, I mean, I don't think he's a dumb guy. I'm not trying to stick up for him either. It's like, I just don't think that like he's going to send MSTR single-handedly into a bear market just to buy more Bitcoin while literally Bitcoin rips while Bitcoin doubles basically. And while every other Bitcoin proxy goes up significantly. Like the miners, for instance. Have you ever looked at a chart of Bitcoin miners? Like look at how they move, guys. You know, they move like healthcare stocks. You see? So he's going to basically have everybody pull their money out of MSTR so that they can chase, you know, a 10x to who knows 20x move in like a Mara stock or, you know, a miner like that, Riot, etc. By the way, I mean, it's not financial advice. I'm just trying to make a point here. Like, I don't think people would do that, but I also don't know. I don't know. Time will tell. Anyways, looks like price closed at 331.5 today, so not bad. We'll see what next week holds for us. That's how I had the downtrend kind of drawn out. It looked like, you know, on Wednesday, we actually opened up that bar below how I had the downtrend drawn. Whereas today, we opened above the downtrend the way that I had it drawn. So I think the context flips a little bit more bullish, even though I've seen other people charting it and saying that, like, you know, essentially you can adjust this and say maybe it's there. And then if you actually think about this, look, that would imply that maybe we even, if Bitcoin has like a tear this weekend, maybe MSTR goes as high on Monday as 355 because the downtrend trend line that you see right here would coincide with the 200-day, and that's going to basically create a magnet, you know, right around 355, 354 and change. All right, let's talk about MSTR 200-day rate of change. Like, look at this chart. I've shown this in previous videos, but let me just show you guys, like, there is signal here. There is signal. I'm telling you, there is. Like, it essentially told you to buy right here on, this is kind of in that like W structure where it was the bottom of the consolidation from the previous peak so far. If you had bought there, you gained 44% in 11 days. If you had bought back here, it gave you the perfect entry before the late 2024 euphoric run that we just talked about. And we can just measure it one more time. It literally gave you the best entry. So in 53 days, you gained 373%. And it was literally by just drawing that trend line and waiting for it to break with the 200-day moving average rate of change. Before that, it would have had you buy right here, which if we use the ruler and just measure from that candle right there, well, within 11 days, you were up 66%. Here's one more. Let's measure again. So it would have had you buy into MSTR in January of 2024. And if you had just held for 43 trading days, you were up 328%. So do I have your attention here? I know we've done this in previous videos, but like sometimes you just need to remind yourself. Like literally, I'll reset my charts and just start from scratch to make sure that I didn't make a mistake. And you're seeing what I'm seeing right now. Like, look at where we are right now. We have not broke it up and out of this trend, but you can see the trend line clear as day going back to the November 2024 top and extending it out. And next week for MSTR, we're going to have a decision made if it's going to break up or break down. I mean, it can break down. That's essentially what started the, you know, bear market that followed the 2020-2021 run. That's why I'm saying though, guys, it's like, I wouldn't say this if I didn't strongly believe it based on staring at these charts way longer than anybody probably should, that like we're at a binary point where it's either bear market in my mind or MSTR north of $1,000 by the end of the year for real. And like people, I don't know, man, there's people that like do some funny responses on Twitter and stuff talking about like the way people frame MSTR having an MNAV of 2, they frame it like it's insane when it's like, I don't care. You know what I mean? You'll see. Time will tell, guys. Time will tell. We'll see what happens. I very strongly believe MNAV of 2 happens, and I believe north of 2 happens in this bull run, but we shall see. We shall see. Even with MSTR diluting shares into it, I believe it'll happen. If you guys so easily forget what it's like to have a euphoric like bubble type move, and that's literally what we're looking at with the Bitcoin log chart breakout should it manifest. You're talking about Bitcoin going north of 200K. Imagine average person's going to be talking about, you're going to see Michael Saylor on all the CNBC, and everybody's going to be talking about him. It's going to be a repeat of what we've seen in the past. Nothing new under the sun, as they say. So anyways, 200-day rate of change on MSTR, showing us a breakout's coming. I already showed you that it's coming on Bitcoin as well. If you like this video, guys, I do pretty much daily updates during the trading week on my private group, linked below. If you're irresponsibly long MSTR like I am, how much would it be worth to you to have somebody who's in the charts daily looking for the perfect entry for shares and options, and eventually looking to see if we might have topped and it's time to take profits? If this is something that interests you, I want to invite you to check out my MSTR generational wealth community linked below.